Okay, seems like it's actually working. Yeah, well, second attempt. I really like my new wild and unruly career. I can do shitty black and white videos from my bed when I have some downtime and I'm thinking about some things. And this is about inflexible systems, because when everything is digitalized, of course it's a danger of its own. The real danger lies in these systems being completely inflexible, and to get a resolution or to get somewhere you might be banging on closed doors forever. I stopped calling customer support and all of that bullshit. I made a conscious decision around 10 years ago that I'm not going to call any of this. I once actually had a telco charging me $150 extra every month, and they had a scripting problem in their software. Every month I had to call them and like, hey, this billing item, look, I'm adhering to, I've got this plan, and you are adding this, and every month they took it down. After close to a year, I got really furious, so I actually got a poor customer support guy to literally haul his boss out of an internal meeting. And that boss promised, like, yeah, it won't happen again. And I bet they put up a post-it somewhere, and some guy was deleting it every month. And then, well, of course, they started billing me again, and I just walked away. Later, when I was doing a job, because I always ask people who they are, what they work with, what field, and this guy was working in this phone provider, like this telco, and I mentioned that. It was funny that I had this problem, and you know what, I actually totally wrecked their support and their support team, and he was, oh yeah, I remember that, yeah, they had that problem. So I actually found the guy. This is like 15 years ago, 15 years ago. Then these powers get a lot of, like these systems get a lot of power. Like one thing I'm gonna mention again and again was my old, like a bank I had for 20 years then, which was a mutual union kind of thing, and my bank accounts I was barred from transferring my own already taxed money out of the country in 2020 into the country where I was stuck. Even my family even knew the bank manager, not the branch manager, but the manager of this mutual union kind of style bank, but they didn't understand actually what was going on, that this was preposterous, and they tried to help me. But so if that would have been a few years earlier, first of all, they wouldn't have closed it easily, and they would have opened it after a few rounds of sparring with them, and they certainly would have opened it after, like, someone in the family contacts the boss of the bank and like, hey, he's abroad, he just quit, he lost his companies, he's stuck in the whatever you call the 2020 thing, and obviously he needs to transfer money abroad to survive. Maybe in the end it was a good thing, because that's when I decided, like, I'm not going to go along with any of this any longer. It was not that much money. I mean, I was always broke, but well, there's ATMs. So Revolut also closed my account because I didn't have a proof of address any longer. Well, I haven't got a proof of address because I'm stuck in a country where I was supposed to open. I opened a company and I got a work permit and everything, but well, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to go between the countries to really establish this branch. And they opened it and then they closed it down immediately after with the same reason. And I sent them a message like, I just gave you this documentation and now we're closing it on the same grounds, and I didn't get an answer. And then later I transferred €1 into that account, and well, they've got that euro, but I'm going to get it back somehow with interest. So inflexibility, and now all of these are fusing with government and AI. It's gonna totally wreck so many lives. I've managed because I've got the attitude for it, and I've got some experience in dealing with bureaucracies and things, and then in the West, outside in the world in general, is not that. No one is out to get you outside of the West, outside of the EU. I think maybe there are some exceptions I don't know about, but my general experience is that it's not nefarious. It's not. The system is not vengeance. It is in the West. So in the West, you can't even talk about it because, he wants some flexibility. He wants to talk to a real human, and you want to have his existence taken into consideration. There must be something wrong with him. That guy, he hasn't even got a mortgage. A pay slip? He hasn't got a pay slip? Oh, he's an entrepreneur, he's a businessman. Well, I know he doesn't need a pay slip, but then he should have a lot of money, shouldn't he? He's a businessman. This is the insanity of it. So you can't even talk too much about it, because then you are automatically branded as a villain. It's like, I would say one thing, and this is totally true, and it's like I realized when I was like 18, 19 that there are some, technically, if you reuse your card in like going on a bus, depending on countries, but in my case it was like if I reuse that, so I get 2 prints on it. Of course, if the controllers come, I'll be busted and I have to pay. Well, you can also see them coming from afar. But I was like 18 I think. And then, but technically, that is falsifying a public document. So if they want to, they can make for some really serious problems for you. So never ever fake public documents. I haven't done it since I was 18, and this is the reason why I have a bit of money stuck here and there, because I could easily just make some proof of address, but that can come back and turn into a serious problem later, especially now that AI is going to roam all of this. But you need flexibility, and so I'm going to tell a story that is now 13 years ago. And I can tell this story because it is one of a couple of examples, or at least I have, that where flexibility is legal. So I was doing a web development job that was quite big. We had worked like mad to get it. My sales guy sold a WordPress theme running on Drupal, so my work, part of it, like went from like maybe I was hoping to like make like 10, 15, 20, maybe $50 an hour for myself on it, and it just completely nuked the budget for me. So I spent 3 months getting it up, and maybe I stopped listing my own hours in the end because it was way under minimum wage. But I mean, it was a bit of money. So I was one of the first users of, wasn't the first users, but I was in the first years when you had effective online accounting. So I had an account. Then this, did all of our accounting, and then this great customer we had, like he was like really, really getting restless, and I was close to finishing it, the main stage of it off, and he was like, "Well, I need it now," and I've got a few tweaks. I'll send it to you on Friday. So late Friday, I had it shipped, I sent it to him, he's super happy, and okay, now I could build the main part of it. For me, it was like, I think it was like 10k, and I go online, and I'm going into our accounting system, and there's like maintenance or what. Or maybe it was just some kind of error. I think so. If it was, it just didn't work. It was just unavailable, and because I would have taken a screenshot if there was like maintenances. And then I'm here like, oh shit, if I don't bill him now, on Monday he'll want a heavy deduction. He'll use that. So what can I do? Well, I had one of the earlier, to my tenants, I had the template. I knew that I had billed maybe one or two like customers between that and that print that I had, and the bill I needed to send within hours. And then I did some thinking. Well, okay. Well, the legalities around bookkeeping is like this, but I also have a duty to my company to secure its finances, and that is another set of laws, and this is a force majeure basically on a business level. And this is not a public document, so I have the right to bill him using Photoshop. I will have broken some accountancy rules, but I can defend that. So I did that, and he paid. Then 1 or 2 years later, maybe it was 2 years later, we needed to deregister the company. And there is VAT, like heavy VAT involved. It was not like, okay, personal bankruptcy, or it was we did some. Actually, this turned into another phase where I did another company, so I think we built like maybe 20k altogether. But of course, filing the papers for dissolving the company, someone discovered. What do you do? I mean, my partners freaked out, but I told them, like, okay, I actually anticipated this to a certain degree, and I'll write a letter. So I wrote a letter with the same legal reasoning, and because trying to lie or like trying to twist ourselves out of that, then it can really blow up. So I wrote a letter. I know this was done. It was done on this rationale. The online solution was down. I have a duty to my company. It was the only way we could bill the customer. The customer would have undercut our bill on the Monday if we didn't pay when he was in a good mood, and that would have basically forced our company into bankruptcy. And that's the key, because when you get to that level where they have to reason and when they have to balance laws up against each other, it's they know that there is. I got to the point where there is some flexibility, and we got an answer where that okay, don't do it again, but we have taken this into consideration, and it's okay. So this is kind of like small scale defensive lawfare, or you have to know what kind of flexibility is in a system. You need to find ways of escalating until you get flexibility. You definitely need to defend yourself in the ways of not trying to mess around with something that is not flexible. And the scary thing with the digitalization of the West and the whole technocracy madness is that there will be no flexibility, no human take on anything, unless it enslaves everyone. It's gonna fail. I don't know. I've studied things like the Soviet Union since forever, but I don't know the details of how flexible it was. But I can't imagine it being more inflexible. And when they take anything away from you at any kind of spurious excuse, and when everything is taken away from you and they're treated like a criminal because your thoughts are wrong, you just have to discard all of it. Which is why I'm keeping to sane locations where there is always some flexibility in the system, and where your intention and how you portray and how you act is actually taken into consideration. The only thing that is taken into consideration in the technocratic West is compliance. You're a nice little aunt, you're sitting in your cubicle and you're doing everything as every tiny rule is describing, and you're proud of it. And I've noticed one thing, and that is people living in that bubble, in that reality, they don't even register, they don't even remember when something hit them, and they don't. I have another example, which was like an idealistic organization that I got on the board in quite early. I called them just, hey, I want to be on this board, and my track record was enough to like, oh, we want him. And these were, of course, a mix of socialists, Marxists. I'll do some videos about that because it ended up being completely. I've seen the inside of this NGO structure kind of thinking via this project. So these optimistic, idealistic but totally brainwashed people were like, yes, and on the state registry it says that we'll get our unit in 3 days, so next board meeting we'll have the unit. And I tell them like, nah, it's more likely 3 weeks if you push it, and maybe 3 months if you just let these things happen, because it never works out the first time. And they were like looking at me, he doesn't know what you're talking about, we are the smart ones. The state says we're gonna get it in 3 days, we're gonna get it in 3 days. And the next board meeting we had, like after a month or so, they were very, very subdued. And the way they mentioned, like, well, we haven't got the papers yet, was all you have to do is laugh. It's so these are stories that I can tell, and actually all stories I have about working the system I can tell, because I've always been on the right side. What it is all about is to communicate so that you reach some kind of flexibility. If that is impossible with a system, just walk away from it. I can't even see the classified ads in my home country, and I can also not post classified ads in my home country any longer, and there is a monopoly on classified ads, and I can't post there any longer because I haven't got a digital ID tied to a phone number in my passport country. It's so utterly insane that it's by now it's kind of like a sort of entertainment for me, and it's content like I'm turning it into content because I need to stay relevant. I feel like I'm living, like seeing this Matrix code running down the scene, like that. Will I regret at some point that I'm still staying in rough, wild countries where there is like more flexibility on a daily basis? Maybe, but I don't think so, because the things that you should never ever see as flexible is going against the local culture or having the wrong intentions, and I'm fine on those count, and I can more or less prove it. I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think once you get outside of that bubble and you see a totally different world, your whole thinking, your whole planning, your whole... It might take a while. It took me like almost 4 years now to get to the stage where everything is prepared and where I don't feel anxious about talking about things. And one part of it is that we needed to get to this phase where if the rest of the world don't see the inflexibility and insanity of the West, you can at least give them some references. Like if I were to run into some kind of tiny problem now, like, oh, you got... It's very unlikely that like I go to some country and like they find out like, oh, you got this Twitter account, you're not happy with the EU, and they're not going to act on that because it doesn't apply. But if something like that should happen, I would point to the fact like, well, as you know, like this big bad country Russia has now offered asylum to people because they regard the leadership of the West as literally insane. You know that, and somehow people will know, and you can use that as a reference, or you can say like, oh yeah, I got a Bitcoin wallet. Well, I haven't got much here. Like, look, I'm touring the world. I'm gonna rebuild myself, and I got a few $1,000s here. That's all I've got. And by the way, it's like even the country El Salvador Bitcoin is legal, and it's my plan to go there, and things that are true, pointing towards. I think in the West the mentality is like, oh, that person has done something wrong. He's offended us. This is the thing. It's like simple things like dealing with police if you are caught speeding, or like my latest experience with police in my home country is I just did not drive the way they expected, and they was like, "Oh, are you gonna check that one?" It's despicable. But I think once there would be like some tiny thing like that they think I was moving my stuff, so I had some got a bit of silver coins in the car, and if it's like I'm not bringing my a receipt on my own junk and then a little bit of silver, which is what I had left in the country. But I wouldn't put it past them to like suddenly, okay, oh, this must be a criminal, and we'll take this. And I know it's much worse in countries like the US with assets forfeiture, and if you take the cash out to buy a truck, and it's much worse in many areas of the world, and it's probably much worse for people with another profile than me. And but I think the point is that I think bureaucrats and like low-level functionaries in the West now, it's been my experience because I have this combined experience through years, they've gone from understanding people and the economy and how things work to the complete opposite. And I think it's my suspicion that many of these people now take it as a personal affront if any tiny rule is broken, and that's when things get completely out of control. And it's just wild that I have to do these longer dialogues to kind of get the point across without being seen as anything other than what I am. I'm a rebel nomad because I'm not gonna ever let something like a worldwide shutdown or some smart city or some World Economic Forum demons or I don't need to own much, but I'm not gonna let someone outside tell me that I'm gonna own nothing and be happy. My happiness is up to me. That's the basic thing. and that's basically all. And I'll be this gritty wild guy in black and white, and I'll travel. I'll do mysterious travels, and I'll network with whoever I want, who understands the same thing, that you need to build these. You need to build in the Defiance. You need to build businesses and services that can withstand anything, because the EU, the Europe, the whole bureaucracy, that whole thing will go down one way or another. I'm thinking this year, maybe next year, it will collapse. And on the other side of that, because if I go back 20 years, it was okay. I had to work hard. I had to pay taxes, but they were not too horrible, and I could get something back. One way or another, we need to get to a better phase. I think there's going to be a serious collapse in the meantime. I think that the business environment you get on the other side is going to be rough for ages, like it was with the Soviet Union. I think that those who build in Defiance and build something very resilient, it can be like an internal activity in their existing company. It can be newer companies. It can be like a sole business proprietorship where you prepare for scaling up. Anything. People need to build in Defiance, because then when you get to the other side, you can survive and thrive. And if we don't get another side, well, we really need to learn how to handle things. So that's the background for all of this, and I feel cautiously optimistic. I feel happy that there is a large number of people who get these things now. I will also relate a lot of stories. I think, I don't know if a few people watch this, or if it's seen in a few years, it doesn't matter, but I've got lots of stories, and like some of the stories are about meeting people who left outside of Europe, and what type of these people these are. Like we're talking top tier people. So many left. No one talks about it if they are really successful. The ones that are small business people, or like ordinary careers who leave, they also don't. I mean, what kind of upside would it be talking about it? I'll try to put it in context. I'll try to do it as I go, and interesting times. This is what we need. Good luck, and for anyone who actually listens to all of this, except for any kind of surveillance agents.